Hey there, people. It's the H-Man, coach of the Maryland Litwicks. Today I'll be bringing you my team builder and game for the week 2 of PGL Season 2. We'll be playing against Boise Beartics and Nerdologic. Um, we won our first game, so we're 1-0, and he lost his first game, so he's 0-1. Now, before going into the team, I just want to mention that looking at my opponent's team, his Reshiram literally destroys my team. It was really hard to build for this. I don't even know like if I actually did anything with my build. I don't know if I could do anything. Like that Reshiram is like a really big threat. Just the only thing good about it is it's having at least base 90 speed, so I can outspeed it with some stuff. But that's pretty much it. It literally hits everything in my team, and I don't have a single check. I can't have like it was really hard to prep against the Reshiram, but I tried to do it here. Okay, so first member I decided to bring was Mega Lucario. Now, when I looked at this matchup, I actually felt like I shouldn't bring Mega Lucario. Basically, 2 mons outspeeded in my opponent's team, 3, my bad. Dugtrio, Lopunny, and Greninja. That Greninja is pro team, by the way. I thought if he really wanted to, he could lock this in with his Dugtrio and kill it. However, if I have grassy terrain, it won't be able to kill me. But I still felt like Lopunny without speed, this Greninja without speed, this is not that, like, it's pretty fragile actually, so it might not be able to do as much. But then I figured both Greninja and Lopunny is weak against our fighting stab, and Dugtrio is really fragile anyways. So I was like, let me see how much the Vacuum Wave do to them, which it does a lot if I'm like full special attack and modest, which I am. Um, with this, obviously, I may not be able to outspeed the Alolan Raichu if it comes and if it's timid, but I'm able to outspeed the Mimikyu regardless, even if it's Jolly or whatever. So that's something, and I kind of needed to go modest to be able to do as much damage as I can. Now I have Aura Sphere, Flash Cannon, and Nestable and Vacuum Wave. Like I said, Vacuum Wave hits mons that are faster than me for good damage, and my other moves also hit pretty much all his team for good damage, including the Reshiram with my Aura Sphere. I can actually tweet KO it, I believe after rocks especially. And I can kill it after rocks if I have a nasty blood up. Having a nasty blood up might be tricky depending on what my opponent brings. I might be able to get it on potentially Cresselia maybe, because it won't be able to do much to my Lucario. Maybe Skarmory if it ends up coming, or potentially Mimikyu. But for us to be able to get that against Mimikyu, Mimikyu's Disguise should be off. Because we do outspeed Mimikyu and kill it with Flash Cannon, and Player Off doesn't kill us right away, so that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, that's the Lucario set right here. It also outspeed that Reshiram. Like I said, that's kind of okay damage with our Sphere. Next member is Bulu. I said I wanted to bring grass terrain in this game. You'll see the reason later. This is leftovers Bulu, fully defensive. May need to be able to check that Lopunny, Mimikyu, like other physical attackers, like even that Dugtrio, if it may come. Pretty much all of them. Cacturne as well, which he got 2 kills with last week. The only physical attacker that we wouldn't be able to take would be Stakataka. But I don't really expect my opponent to bring Stakataka anyways. Regardless, this is the set. I'm planning on using this set to kind of stall out my opponent. So the main idea, I'm just gonna jump into Toxapex here, because that'll be easier to explain it like this. So here's Black Sludge Toxapex, fully special defensive with Toxic Spikes, Scald Recover, and Baneful Bunker, right? So I wanna set up Toxic Spikes. If I set up Toxic Spikes, I'll be able to wear down my opponent's threats. Mainly that Reshiram, obviously, because that Reshiram both would be able to hit my team, especially with the Life Orb set, with like Fire and Dragon Stab. It just hits everything, as I mentioned before. It also has roost, so it can actually roost up, and it's hard for me to deal with, like really hard for me to deal with. Like in my team, the only one who could like probably OIT KO it potentially because it's really bulky as well would be Rhyperior, but because Rhyperior has so low SPDF stats, I wouldn't be able to do anything with it since I'll have to take a hit first anyways. So my opponent has Nidoqueen, so which is actually good against my team. I'm expecting Nidoqueen to come. If he doesn't bring it, it's perfect because then we can just set up Toxic Spikes because I'm pretty sure I'll have opportunities to do so with my Toxic Spikes. And I do believe his only defogger is Skarmory, if I'm not mistaken. I think so, yeah. So there's that, which may not even come, and even if it comes, we have Magnezone for that. But Toxic Spikes will be really nice in this. Actually, it's like my way of winning this. So even if that Nidoqueen comes along, I'll try to kill it as fast as possible and set up Toxic Spikes eventually. So that's why we have the Tapu Bulu here as well with Protect, with like Grass Eater and Leftovers, Lead Seed. It can just stall out some turns against some other stuff as well. So we have our Magnezone here too. I decided to go Choppleberry to be able to take a hit from that Greninja if it decides to bring low kick or something like that, because I feel like this is a good switching to that Greninja, especially like if the Greninja comes in on Bulu or something, wants to go for a Gunk Shot, I can just switch this in or Lucario in. I'd have both options. I still went with Magnet Pull and put some speed up to be able to outspeed that Skarmory if it runs just a little bit of speed. To be able to lock that one in. This could also lock in that Stakataka if it ends up coming. Therefore, we have HP Ground for that. Plus, HP Ground also hits that Nidoqueen, though we need to have a Magnet Rise up before we think about actually clicking moves against Nidoqueen, obviously. So the other two coverage I have is Thunderbolt and Wall Switch. I felt like the Steel type coverage would be unnecessary, considering I have other stuff to check the Mimikyu anyways. And I pretty much hit everything else with this. So that's the idea behind my Magnezone. And I already talked about Toxapex. Let's get to Necrozma. Now, again, getting rocks up in this game too, it's like really important to be able to wear down that Reshiram and limit its switch-ins and force it to click Roost in a couple turns. So I have a fast Necrozma, somewhat bulky, to be able to outspeed that Nidoqueen for sure. And with Expert Belt Photon Gazer with 60 special attack investment, I actually OIT KO a full HP Nidoqueen. So that's why I got the 60 EVs in special attack. I'm actually hoping for that. If he actually leads that Nidoqueen against me, might do that. Might lead Reshiram as well. But last week he actually led Reshiram, and apparently a Zerora with Dragonium Z OIT KO it after fake out though. Like so you might be less tempted to lead Reshiram in this one. You might still lead it, which would be bad because again I don't really switch him well against it. But if for instance he leads that Nidoqueen and I click a Photon Gazer, if he switches into something like Greninja, I can switch into that for instance. So that's an idea. Plus I could set up rocks really early. Signal Beam to be able to hit that Greninja again, because with this HP investment and our Prism Armor ability, we can actually take Dark Pulses. So that's something. Plus this Signal Beam can also hit that Cacturn, though it would run Sucker Punch probably if it ends up coming. Regardless, Toxic for the Cresselia, because I did bring Darkrai. I wasn't really sure which one to bring as my last one, because I kind of tried to put something there which would have a better time dealing with Reshiram, but none of them did. So I decided to bring Darkrai to be able to beat that Cresselia easier. Because that, if you can't break Cresselia, and if my opponent brings it, Cresselia is always a pain in the ass. Like you should have something to break it. But if something happens to my Darkrai or whatever, because Cresselia will be immune to Toxic Spice, I actually wanted to bring Toxic with one of my mons. I picked Necrozma for that. And Necrozma can stay in on Cresselia and go for a Toxic, and like maybe we can stall it out with Tapu Bulu or whatever. Yeah, and the last one is Darkrai with the Assault Vest. With the Assault Vest, at least it can take a hit from that Reshiram. And I've got two moves here, Spatial Rend and Roar of Time. Now very common moves. They're both Dragon type moves, right? So Roar of Time is like a Dragon type Hyper Beam, which would OIT KO that Reshiram after rocks, and Spatial Rend would 2-hit KO Reshiram without rocks or like whatever. That's why we're modest. We have enough speed to outspeed the Reshiram, and rest goes to HP to be able to take hits better from that Reshiram. So if I can keep this alive, maybe I can catch him off guard, kill the Reshiram with this, which is what I'm hoping for. And other than that, like I said, with Dark Pulse, you can check that Cresselia. And I have Ice Beam. I could have went with Thunderbolt as well to be able to hit that Greninja better, but I guess Spatial Rend would be able to hit it anyways, like almost 2-hit KO it. Plus, like I get a lot of stuff for Greninja, so I'm not really that afraid of that. With Ice Beam, I will be able to hit that Skarmory for normal damage. I would be able to hit Nidoqueen for super effective damage and the Cacturne for super effective damage. So decided to go with Ice Beam. So yeah, that's the team, and we'll see how I actually end up dealing with that Reshiram, and of course the rest of the team. But at least we'll be able to do some stuff or like play around it and give us a chance to win. Let's jump into the game. Alright, so looking into the matchup right here, as I mentioned in my team builder, the first thing that caught my eye was no Nidoqueen, which was amazing from my end. No rocks from my opponent, plus no toxic spikes absorber. So the first thing that came to my mind was like, okay, this can actually work out, right? Like I can set up T spikes, they can stay. That Skarmory might have defog. Plus wanna set up hazards potentially. I mean, that's what it usually likes to do. But if I can, maybe it doesn't even have defogs, like just stealth rock and spikes. But still, like I could deal with that easily with my Magnezone, and set up my hazards, and they would stay there, which is perfect for my game plan. So I was really glad about that, and obviously that Reshiram and the others are there. He brought the Lone Raichu, plus that Mimikyu, which are both Z options, so both could be Z. As far as leads go, I was still thinking that he could lead Reshiram, which would be a dangerous lead, and I wanted to lead off with what does best against it, which is my Darkrai, as I showed in my team preview, team builder. And Darkrai is kind of like a good lead against everything. Two things that could potentially come would be Lopunny, but I have switch-ins to that, mainly the Bulu, and for Mimikyu the same thing. Although Mimikyu could get an ST up, it could be a bit annoying, because I would like to keep my Darkrai at a high health if possible, but still I felt like I should have leveled my Darkrai, so I did that as my opponent leads off with his Raichu. Now here I just went for a Dark Pulse, as he actually switches out into Skarmory, which did a lot. I could have went for Ice Beam afterwards, but like it did so much anyways. So I got rid of Skarmory very early, which is perfect for me, so definitely no hazards coming to my side, plus there is no way of removal from my opponent's side. So right here I actually wanted to find an opportunity to set my hazards as fast as possible. I felt like he'd go out into that Lopunny, which he did. I believe I just go out into Necrozma here, because again, right now there's no Nidoqueen anyways, and I'm looking at my Necrozma. It doesn't really do well against like anything in his team. That Mimikyu would beat it. Raichu potentially might. Greninja, of course, like I have Signal Beam and it doesn't do much with Dark Pulse, but whatever. But like main reason I brought Necrozma was to be able to get a Toxic up on the Cresselia maybe, and to set up rocks, which I feel like I would take any 2 hits from this Lopunny and I would be able to get my rocks up. That's why I switched into this. Even if he didn't go for Fake Out, like I said, I should have been able to take 2 returns. Most of the time anyways, as it does 50%, yeah, it would have been a roll. So I went for my rocks there, as I sacked Necrozma. It wouldn't do much anyways. My rocks were a lot more malleable, as I went out into Bulu. This can't really do much against Bulu, so I believe I just clicked Nature's Madness here. I don't want him to go for Reshiram for free. As he goes into Mimikyu, we break the disguise, which is actually pretty good. Now here, he went for a Shadow Sneak, which is quite interesting. It was Life Orb Shadow Sneak. I mean, like, it didn't do much to me. Maybe he wanted to find out what my set is or whatnot. But I just went for Leech Seed. Felt like I could just get my health back, like especially if you went for an ST or something like that. Leech Seed plus Horn Leech, Grassy Terrain. I just get my health back. Alright, so right here, after he clicked Shadow Sneak and found out that I was fully defensive, I kind of felt like he'd go out into Reshiram because here I would be more tempted to either like protect or click Horn Leech or something like that, or like that would be the thing to do. So I actually decided to click Nature's Madness, thinking he might go out into Reshiram because he needed some momentum here as well. As he does go out into Reshiram, however, unfortunately, as you'll see in a bit, my Nature's Madness missed. It would have been nice if it actually connected. The other idea I had here was like instead of doubling, I went for this. So I felt like I could bring my Toxapex for free, more or less, if I actually went for the Nature's Madness, because it would have around 25% health, so it would be more tempted to go for a Roost or something like that, over attacking potentially, which would give me my packs for free. And even if he did go for an attack, he'd want to kill the Bulu, so he would click Blue Flare actually. So that was the idea, but I missed. I still go out in the Toxapex. I mean, like even if he goes for an Earth Power here, I can take it. If he goes for a Blue Flare, I wanted to set up my Toxic Spikes right away. So that's what I go for here. Just gonna speed it up a little bit. He goes out into Raichu. So right here, I wanted to switch up. Since that Skarmory is dead, my Magnezone doesn't really do that much. I mean, it's good against that Greninja, but I have my Lucario for it anyways. Plus my Toxapex is a check for it. Even my Darkrai with the Assault Vest can check it. Bulu is good against it, minus the Gunk Shot, but still. So I just want to switch out into my Magnezone. I don't want Toxapex getting damage. So I could set up another layer, plus I can switch this on Reshiram always. As he goes for a Z, reveals that this was the Z-Mon and not Mimikyu, which I take quite comfortably. As he goes for a Psyshock, I don't really know why. Again, I go for my HP ground. I brought it against Takataka mainly, but it did a good chunk. As I click it again, he goes out into Reshiram, which is fine, like I get good damage out of this. And I just sacked my Magnezone here to right here. So this is a weird play from my end. So at the turn where I missed the Nature's Madness, I saw the Reshiram getting his health back, and I thought it was leftovers, but it was actually the Grassy Terrain giving it the health back. I didn't really notice that, so I thought this was leftovers. Then I just, I had to speed it and kill it with Aura Sphere, and then I just Mega Evolved, and I was like, I took an Earth Power. I was like, how just happened? And then yeah, it was the Grassy Terrain recovery, so it was actually Scarfed. So I got rid of the Reshiram a hell lot easier than I expected. But at this point, I just clicked Vacuum Wave. I felt like Lucario was gone anyways. Like could have switched into my Bulu, but I was like whatever, because at this point, looking at my opponent's team, since that Raichu is at 20% health, it would take toxic damage plus the rocks when it comes in, and it won't be able to beat my Bulu. My opponent also won't be able to beat my Toxapex, like even with that Lopunny, even if my Toxapex is specially defensive. So both of them with Darkrai, like at this point he can't really break the rest of my team. So I don't know, I mean, like I guess I could have kept Lucario healthy and get a 4-0, but I mean it was fine. Anyway, so he switches out into Raichu here as I go for a Horn Leech. Now he goes on to Greninja. Obviously I expect him to go for a Gunk Shot. I go into my Toxapex, and then there's nothing he can go for that would actually hurt my Toxapex anyways. Here I just click Scald because I figured he'd switch out. Even if he doesn't, like I said, like I could recover off the damage and like beat him eventually, as long as I have the Toxic Spikes on the field, which I do. So he goes down into Lopunny. I believe here I just protect as he goes for a Fake Out. And I think I'll switch out into Bulu here. Yeah, so I did. It was actually a bad turn because Grass Terrain would end, and I wouldn't be resetting it. So I switched into Bulu here, and I believe I just click Horn Leech because yeah, I just get rid of this Greninja right here as well. See, as he'll go out into his Lopunny again. Here I wanted to get my Grassy Terrain back. I just go out into Toxapex, expecting that Fake Out, and again, if you clicked anything else, it wouldn't have made a difference anyways. Just went back out into Bulu to get the Grassy Terrain to make sure that I'll beat that Mimikyu 1v1. But I feel like I would have done it without the Terrain as well. Still. So here just goes for a return. Take that because I'm, as you know, physically defensive. Go for a Horn Leech here. He goes out into his Mimikyu. I'm going to protect the first turn just to get some health back. I mean, just in case, no crits or anything like that. It just goes for an SD though. And I decided to just click Horn Leech right here. As he goes for a Shadow Claw, it doesn't do much, it does like 44%. And with the Horn Leech, I get the kill, get a 3-0 win. I had a lack of focus and lost my Lucario, which was kind of bad. It could have been worse. Should be more careful about stuff like last week too. I forgot that if you hit King Shield with a physically offensive move, you get an attack drop, for instance. I forgot about that, so should pay more attention to stuff like this. And overall, it was a good game. I was really afraid of the Reshiram, but in the end, it was Scarfed. Apparently, I mean, Scarf Reshiram isn't that scary, and I prepped hard for it anyway. So in the end, I got rewarded for my prep here, which is quite. I'm quite glad about that. It was a good win here. And now we're 2-0, and next week we're going to play a team who's also 2-0, which will be an exciting game because we also have the same differential. So whoever wins will most likely go to the top of our conference, which is almost halfway there. It's quite important actually. It'll be a fun game, definitely. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you next time.